Alrighty guys, welcome. This is your host ID Jester. We are setting up scenario number one from Bastognes Outpost here, a lock and load tactical system, Norville's Bastognes Outpost, scenario number one. So this one is called Roadblocks. As you can see, there is a lot of information about it. Before we actually get into the setup, let's pick you up and show you. I've actually redesigned my whole room here. Moved everything on my computer, everything over on this side, so it gives me a little bit more room. But this is a huge map. Huge map. Alright. So, that's why I decided to kind of do it this way. So I'm going to have to move the camera occasionally because otherwise you guys won't know what's going on. Alright, so this is from Norville, Belgium, December 19th, 1944. When Team Desibray arrived at the small crossroads settlement of Norville, their task was clear. Stop the Germans' advance on Bastogne. The men of Combat Command B, CCB, of which the team was part of, had barely enough time and firepower to block a single road, but they had to block 3 in this scenario. So, this is kind of an interesting scenario, and we're gonna talk about setup and stuff like that for it. But basically, the map is divided into 3 main sections. So you got this, and I've kind of outlined them. Let's see if I can do this without destroying everything. Hang on. I gotta unwrap this. I don't have enough room for everything. There we go. Alright, sorry about that, guys. Alright, so this map, for this scenario, is set up into 3 battle areas. So this is battle area number 1. I've kind of outlined it with dice, so you can see. The Germans are going to be coming in over on the west-hand side, probably coming up on these roads or whatever. And so, you know, kind of in this whole area here is battle zone number 1. Alright. And we have battle zone number 2, which is kind of up here. Goes from here over to the map edge. Not very wide battle zone, kind of just this little section of the map there. And then there's another battle zone which goes down here in the corner. So for this scenario, whoever wins 2 of the 3 battle zones wins the scenario. So if the Germans take over 2 of the battle zones and complete their objectives, then they win. If the Americans hold at least 2 of the objectives, they win. So it gives the American player a whole bunch of different units, and they have to decide where they're going to put their units. Before they decide that, though, the German player has to decide which he can split his battle groups up into any forces he wants, including not attacking one of the sections. So that means, you know, the Germans might say, okay, we're going to attack this one and we're going to attack this one. We don't care about that one because they only need 2 of the 3. So it makes sense. So the Americans have to position their units to try and cover all 3 locations, but they have to put a minimum in each location of at least 1 leader and 2 squads in each location. So it really thins the Americans out because they have to cover 3 areas. So what the Americans decided to do as is set up for this is they decided they were going to secure 2 areas and then just put a minimal force in the 3rd area. So they're going to try and defend these 2 areas, and they'll give up that area. So if they can hold on to these 2 areas, they'll still win the scenario. All right. So, and since I'm playing this solitaire, it's hard for me as the German player right, to decide how my forces are going to attack. And I know, being the German player, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to attack in 2 areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just assign each area a dice number, and that will be the area that the Germans will not attack into. So this is going to be, let's see here, we'll go 1 and 2 will be over there. All right. 3 and 4 will be up in this area. And then 5 and 6 will be over here. So one of these 3 areas, the Germans are not, like I said, the Germans, they're going to put all their forces into 2 areas. They need the 2 areas. So what I'm going to do is just not having the Germans attack any in one area and then just concentrate their forces on the other 2 areas. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll a die, and we're going to find out which area the Germans are not going to assign their forces to. Okay? Because I'm doing this solitaire, you know, it's hard for me to say, oh, okay, I've got to set up my German units. I'm going to set up a group here. I'm going to set up a group here. And I'm going to set up a group here. I know this as the Americans when I go to set up, so I know where to defend and stuff. So I'm kind of going out of sequence to make this kind of fair for solitaire. So I'm going to roll a die and find out which area, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which area we are not going to attack at all. We're not going to attack, we're not going to care about the west side over there, which is the Americans put their lowest forces in there, but of course the Germans didn't know that. So the Americans are going to win that sector. So the Germans have to take these 2 sectors, but because they're only going to attack 2 sectors, they have a, they really can concentrate their forces. So let's go ahead and start divvying up our forces. So what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to just put it 50-50. I'm not going to put half in one and half in the other. What I'm going to do is just roll a dice, and then each time I roll a die, it'll tell me. So this group up here is going to be 1, 2, or 3. This will be 4, 5, or 6. So this will go up to 3, and this will go up to 6. All right. So let me put this back down for you guys here. So the German player is going to attack 4, 5, and 6 here, and 1, 2, 3 kind of up in that area up there. So first thing that we're going to roll for here is this Panzer IV. I rolled a 3, so it's going to go up there. I'm just going to kind of set it up out of the way. And the next one is this Studicomp 251/9. And it's going to go up there as well. Our next one is going to be a Yad Panther 5. Yad Panther. All right, so that's going to go here, down in this group here. See if I can slide that back a little bit so you can see more. There we go. So I'll just kind of set that there for now. All right, so they have a Stug 3G. And that's going to come over here with the Yad Panther. And they have another Stug 3G. And that is going to be over here as well. So they're coming pretty heavy over here with at least armor. Well, they do have a tank and a half-track over here. And then they have 2 Stugs and a Yad Panther over here. Which is interesting because the Americans have both of their, or I'm sorry, 2 of their 3 Shermans in this area. So this is going to be an interesting area. All right, so now let's divvy up the men here. All right. So you can see they got quite a few forces still left coming in yet. Alright, what I'm going to do here for their leaders, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Germans have 4 leaders. Yes, they have 4 leaders. So I'm going to just separate them into 2 and 2. And 2 leaders are going to go here, and 2 leaders are going to go here. Alright. Now, let's see what they have here. They have a couple of 264s. Bunch of these guys. Got a bunch of 164s. 164, 164, 264. They have 2 anti-tanks, or they have 2 of these RPZ B-54s. And they actually have 1 Panzerfaust as well. So, Panzerfaust is going to go into over here. Alright, and now this first RPZ B-54 is going to come over here. And this one's going to go over there. The Germans are doing a good job of separating their units. That's good. They have an MG-42. That's going to go over there. And the other one's going to go over here. And now they get an MG-34. And that's going to come over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take 3 infantry here, 3 infantry there. And 3 infantry here and 3 infantry there to make it fair and even. There we go. So it's kind of good because we won't have to even worry about that side of the map because there won't be any units over there. So the Germans are putting all their eggs in their baskets and saying we're going to attack here and we're going to attack here, which kind of makes sense based on this scenario. Because why would the Germans try to get all 3 areas when they only need to get 2 to win the objective? So, and it even says in the directions here, the German player can distribute his units as he desires, even deploying 0 forces in a particular mini battlefield. So that's kind of interesting. So they decided we need 2 objectives. We're going to attack 2 objectives. So that's what they did. Fortunately for the Americans, they got really lucky on the roll because the Germans could have chose this area and then this one way over here, right? And the Americans don't have any good forces way over there. They just put, the only thing they put was a leader and 2 squads, and it was their worst squads. So the Americans got really lucky by doing that. So let's talk about what the objectives are for each of these different locations. All right. So the Germans, to take over each area, they need to, I'm just moving these guys off the map here so you guys can see a little bit better. This is the box area right there. So it's just down in this bottom quadrant. All right. And what they have to do is they have to take over the roadblock hex here, which is the Americans set up the roadblock here. And then they have to take over this building, which I got a white dice on. So they got to take over the roadblock and then the building hex right there. And the way they have their forces in this sector is, so let's talk about the map just a little bit because it's kind of important. It's a little bit hard to see, but over here in the very bottom corner, so Norville is like what they describe in the book. It is like a saucer-like depression. There's a high point way on this side, right here. And then it kind of sinks down in the ground. And then there's another high point over in this area over here. right back there. So this is all lower terrain here, and then you have two areas here which are kind of what they call slope hexes here. So these are like gentle slopes there. If you're moving up a gentle slope, it costs you an extra movement point. If you're going downhill, it doesn't matter. So then this is the high area. So this, like this here, at the top of the slope, before it slopes down, is going to be up top. All of these kind of areas there. So Americans do have a unit up there on top of the hill. They have their they have one of their Shermans there to kind of cover if any of the Germans come up here. They want to definitely cover this area because if you have a tank on the crest of the hill like this, it can be hauled down. Oops, shit. Of course. Why did you do that, Debbie? Debbie? Ah, God damn it. Beautiful. Alright, so now I gotta reset everything up. See, I just don't have enough room. I tried to tell you guys that, but you don't listen. Alright. Sorry about that. Let's see, the American player was here. So if you have a tank on the ridge line, which is right there, going up and down the ridge line, they can be hauled down. Which means you can only hit their dirt. So that's why the Americans wanted to make sure they had a tank up here in case any of the tanks come in. So they also have a squad here with the bazooka. Then they have a 50 cal. Then they have another squad here with a... Some of these things are hard to read. It is a... What the hell is that? M1919A4 is what it is. And these guys are in a foxhole inside that those trees there. Then they have another Sherman over here by the roadblock, kind of guarding this road coming in and maybe any infantry that's coming in this way. And then back towards their objective. Again, the Germans need to take over, I believe it's this building right here. Now that I've messed my dice up, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's this one right there. They have their leader with a unit, a squad, and they're in a foxhole inside of a woods hex as well. So that's their defense of, we're going to call this Battlefield C is what we'll call that. Battlefield C. Now this is only a 5-turn scenario. So the Germans need to get busy to get these areas. Because they're going to have to come off from the edge, come across, kill everything, and then get these objectives. Here and here. Vehicles cannot enter roadblock hexes. So you're going to have to get an infantry unit up there to take over that hex. Now, I'll try and show you guys the other battlefield without trying to destroy everything. Alright, it's not too bad. So here's Battlefield B. We're going to call this Battlefield B. Right here. And the Germans are going to come in on this far edge up here. And anywhere along the far edge. So what the Americans have set up is they have the roadblock right here. So there's a special rule about these tree-lined highways because the dots don't match exactly. And what they say in the rules is this is basically considered line of sight. So if you had a unit down here, it could see straight down the road to any unit that's on the road. And you're not going to go center dot to center dot, because then you would cross the tree lines and you wouldn't have it. So it's just a deformity in having hexes on the map is what they have. So what the Americans did is they got the roadblock here. So no vehicles can go in there. It costs extra movement for the squads to go in there. So if vehicles come in, they're going to have to go around this hex. If they decide to go around this hex, we have, the Americans have in this, they have a squad with a bazooka in a foxhole right there. And if they decide to go around this way, they have their Sherman tank there shooting out this way as well. They also have over here a half-track, an M3A2, to kind of watch where the Germans come in over here, having some line of fire up that way. The Germans need to take over the roadblock hex, and they need to also take over this building hex right here. So back by the building, they have their leader. They have a couple squads with a M1919A5 machine gun. And where's her leader? There's her leader. So they're in this foxhole behind this hedge, or behind the, I guess it's bocage maybe, or hedge, or whatever it is in this scenario. So that's pretty much set up for the two areas for the American. Their job is to keep the Germans from getting these two areas, here and here, in Battleground B, over here. And Viper Dave, Itarian Hobbyist, how you guys doing? All right, now you're talking. My go-to tactical game. Do you think you'll play ASL again? Maybe. You never know. You never know. I might. We'll see. Thanks for stopping in, guys. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. So yeah, this is a very interesting scenario, the way they have it set up. Americans have to separate their forces, guess where the Germans are going to attack, and the Americans guessed right. They put their weakest units way over here by themselves, and it was just a couple squads and a leader. And the Germans decided not to attack this at all, and that's that could have been terrible for the Americans, because if the Germans would attack there, they don't have anyone to really defend. A couple squads and a leader isn't going to do much. So fortunately for the Americans, they chose the right sector. It just happened to be the dice roll that determined that. Now, there's some special rules with the Bastognes Outpost, which we got to cover here for you guys. All right. All right, so let's talk about them. All right. So as you know, if you know anything about Bastogne, it was constantly muddy and rainy and everything else. So that means anytime a tank goes off the road hex, whether that's a paved road or this other road down here in the corner. This is kind of like a dirt road, and then this is a dirt road, and then this is like a paved road. As long as they're on a road hex, they're okay. What I'm going to do is let's use a unit down here. There we go. Where'd my Yad Panther go? Now that I hit all the stupid counters all over the place. Ugh. Where'd my Yad Panther go? Where did he go? Oh, did I pick him up and bring him over here? Yes, I did. Okay. So, as long as a vehicle's on the road hex, it costs 2 movement points to go on the road hex, right? From hex to hex. If the unit goes off a road hex, right? The terrain on that is going to be pretty brutal. Let's see, road hex. I'm sorry, let's go back. It is only 1 point on a dirt road or a paved road or a tree-lined road. It is 1 for movement for a vehicle. Tracked vehicle and O vehicles are 1 point. Leg units are 1 as well on a road hex. So any road hex, it costs 1. Let me just double check that because I was just. Hey Julian, what's going on, man? Yeah. All right. Yeah. So oops. You see clearly in the rule book it's different because it says it costs T and O vehicles 2 movement points and R vehicles 3 movement points to enter a clear hex. So I'm not sure why the terrain aid chart is different. Let's just... I thought I read that. I'm like, yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Oh, I guess it's under the notes. There it is. Cost of vehicles plus 2 movement points to enter a dirt road, plus 1 movement point to enter a paved road from a non-road hex. So, because of the mud and the terrain and everything, anytime a vehicle does not gets off the road, you got to roll a die. And if you roll a 5 or a 6, it bogs down, and it has to stop its movement. So staying on the roads, probably very good. So that's why the Americans put these roadblocks where they thought the enemy's going to come, because, let's see, I think that was like that. Yeah, something like that. Now, the Germans can't come down this road because that's not an entry hex. So they're going to have to come this way down these 2 roads and link up. And they have to come in on this edge. So if, for example, this Jadbankter wants to come in way down here on the bottom, right, where there isn't a road, down here in the bottom, he's got to roll a die. And if he doesn't bog down, he can move again. He can move again, but sooner or later, he's going to roll a 5 or 6, and then he's going to be bogged down. All right, so that's rule number 1. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, that's kind of important, is the gentle slope we talked about. So there's a, this is the top of the hill here, and these 2 hexes, they kind of have the gradient terrain kind of flowing like that. These 2 hexes are gentle slopes, and then this is a biggie: fog. Fog obscured Norville and its surrounding countryside, hindering the combatants' visibility and making spotting by sight and sound a problem. When fog is in play, the players must determine the normal spotting range. So this scenario is a little bit different in that the normal spotting range is going to be automatically 1 hex. So let's get a couple units out so I can show you this. So if units are in adjacent hexes, like these 2 units, they can spot one another just fine. And in this case, 1 hex away is fine. The second hex you look into is fine as well, but this is considered a fog hex. Everything is foggy besides past the first hex in this scenario, and this scenario only. So in this scenario, the fog stays the same. In other scenarios, the fog will alter throughout the scenario based on what the players do. But in this scenario, if you're adjacent, you can automatically spot just like normal. If it's one space away, this is considered a fog hex. And spotting rules to spot this unit, if it doesn't have a fired marker or move marker or whatever on it, it would be a +1 penalty. But no penalty to shoot. So if you're 3 hexes away, right, because this is a fog hex, you get a -1 penalty to your firepower and a -1 penalty to your ordnance. If you are 4 hexes away, right, 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes away, you got to shoot through 2 fog hexes. So that's a -2 penalty to your attack because you're shooting through basically 2 fog hexes. And then if the unit was 1 more away, let's move the unit over this way so I can let's use this die, that's fine. And so now you're going through 3 consecutive blocking terrain, so line of sight's blocked. So in this scenario, everything's going to be really close and tight because units can't see very far. The most you can see is going to be four spaces away. The most you can see is 4 spaces away. And then you're only going to be able to attack, and you're going to be a -2. So if the unit comes within 3 hexes, you're at a -1, and then if it's 2 hexes away, I think you're just normal. You're just a normal attack then. So foggy is going to keep it so that the Americans just can't shoot the Germans when they come on the board. As you can see, this tank way over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's 6 hexes away. So this tank isn't even going to be spotted until it moves up there. Then it's spotted. But if the American decides to opportunity fire on it, it's going to be a -1. It's going to be a -2 because it's going to go through 2 fog hexes. So he's got to wait until the tank gets closer. And closer, and closer, and until they're like right on top of one another. Maybe, I don't know. We're gonna find out. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be different. So it's definitely, that's why there looks like there's a lot of units for all this little section here, but that's because all the units got to be really close together to actually do anything, to do any kind of attack, because you're losing firepower. These guys they're a 1 firepower, right? And let's see give him a machine gun, right? So he's a squad with a machine gun. That's 3 firepower. But if he's shooting a unit that's 3 sections away, that's going to be, first base is okay. Then you're shooting through fog, so that's a -1. And then you got to take the terrain he's in. Right, so you're shooting across the hedge, and he's in a light woods. So you're going to be at a -1, -2, -3. There's your 3 firepower gone right there. So you're just shooting 0 firepower. And like I said, the Germans only have 5 turns to get both of these objectives here and up in here as well. So should make it for interesting. It's definitely going to be a scenario that, or this whole campaign, Bastognes Outpost, is going to be different than normal because of the fog and the bogging down of all your vehicles. So the Americans, this unit's on a road here, so he has the advantage, right? So if the Germans want to bring a unit in, he's got to roll every turn to see if he bogs down. And if he bogs down, right, you only have 5 turns to complete this scenario. If he bogs down a couple times, he's never going to get anywhere. But just because he's bogged down doesn't mean he can't fire, but still. That's let's see. What else is interesting about this? There's even a rule for pea soup fog. Like the pea soup fog is where units, where it's so thick that the normal spotting range is 0. So units that are adjacent to one another can't even see one another automatically. And then you have a special rule where units can move a hex. So if like these Americans are like, charge, we're going to move in there, then the Germans could say, okay, I'm going to use my 1 activation and move it over there. So the Germans or the Americans charge in there, and then they find out the Germans aren't even there. So that's the pea soup effect there. So that's why the Americans, set up the roadblocks where they did, especially on this one, right? So vehicles won't be able to come down all the way down here. They're going to be blocked. And if they go to the left, there's a guy over here. And if they go to the right, there's going to be a tank over there. And if they decide to just go off the road and go cross country, they're going to have to roll a die every time to see if they bog down. So that's going to be set up for scenario 1. Again, if you're just joining us, this is the Roadblock scenario from December 19th, 1944. It's got a really interesting setup on this, where basically there's 3 different battlefields on the same map, all going on at the same time. The Germans have to decide where their forces are going and write them down on a piece of paper ahead of time. And then the Americans set up their units. And then the Germans reveal where they're attacking. Now, the Germans only need to get 2 of the 3 locations. So the Germans only need to attack 2 locations. So when the Americans, they can evenly distribute his forces. But for our situation, the Americans over here in this section decided to put just 2 squads and a leader to hold that section down. And that was the section the Germans decided not to attack. So the Americans had the rest of their forces in these other 2 sections. So the Americans got really lucky on their setup, because otherwise the Germans would have had that one area for sure, and then it would have come down to the other area. So I did it a little bit differently because I'm playing solo than how they explain how to do it. But if you're playing solo, you're going to know where the Germans are going to be attacking and where they're not going to be attacking. If you do that first, then when you go to make up the American setup, then it's like, well, I know the Germans are not going to be attacking here, so I'll just put all my units over here, which doesn't make it fair. So what I did was, since I'm playing a solo, is I set up all the Americans, and then I randomly rolled the dice to see which area the Germans were not going to attack. And of course, we rolled the dice over here. And that's where the Americans had their weakest forces. So, modeling for advantage. What's going on? Thanks for coming by. So that's some of the rules in the setup for Bastognes Outpost Lock and Load Tactical System by, of course, Lock and Load Publishing. Should be interesting with the rules, variants, and the fog, and the muddy terrain, how things play out. I think the Americans, having a lot of forces in these little sections are going to make things a little tough on the Germans. A little tough, but we'll see. You never know. So thanks everyone for coming on by. I appreciate it. Itarian Hobbyist. Be sure to check out his wonderful military strategy channel. Viper Dave, Jillian, Modeling for Advantage. I'm going to play it tonight. I'm hoping to, but right now I've got a massive headache. I took a nap this afternoon to try and get rid of my headache, and it's now twice as worse. So I took some aspirin a little bit ago, but I've got a massive headache. So nearly bedtime here, but I'll be tempted by Lock and Load after hearing Todd talk about it from time to time. Oh yeah, it's a great little system. Not very, not too complex, but enough rules to make it interesting. And so yeah, I'm hoping to play it tonight. Well, just depends on if I can get rid of my headache enough to. I'm gonna go. Actually, we're gonna have dinner in a little bit, but I'm gonna try and take a shower and just let the water run on me for a little while and see if that helps. So hopefully I'll feel better. And we'll I wasn't even going to do this little video, but I decided to do it. So anyways, so that's kind of the update there from our scenario. You can see how big the map is. So you got Battlefield B over here. You have Battlefield C over here. We have Battlefield A over here, but nothing's going to happen in A because the Germans aren't going to attack over there. So all of our action is going to happen on the east side of the map, up here and down in here. And it's going to be bloody and brutal because there's going to be you got a Yad Panther there coming in on a M4A1. We got our squads here with bazookas. We got our squads here with M1919A4s, and he keeps getting knocked out of his foxhole. We got another Sherman over here. We got a leader back here with a squad in a foxhole, and the Germans need to take over this building and this roadblock hex. Right there. So obviously roads are going to be really important if they're going to use vehicle movement. If they're going to be going cross country, that could be super dangerous. But if the Germans can get that unit up here, this is the top of the level 2 hill. They can go hold down and then they can take shots at the Americans. That could be trouble. So that's why, if the Americans can, and of course, the whole thing with you can only see 4 hexes. I mean, and if you're going to be shooting through 2 hexes, it's going to be a -2 to your attacks. So your firepower. This guy's got a firepower of 1. If he's shooting a unit over here, and it's going through 1 wood hex or 1 fog hex. It's going to be a -1. He's got 0 firepower. So people are going to have to get up close and personal here. We're going to have lots of up close and personal attacks, I think. We'll see, though. Yad Panther versus 75mm Sherman sounds grim. Well, we'll see. I mean, sounds grim. Sherman has a 5 and 4 armor rating on their front. Now the Yad Panther has a 6 on their front. So 5 on the hull and 4 on the turret on the front. So as long as the Sherman can keep his front facing, which he shouldn't have a problem keeping the front facing, because it's not like the Yad Panther is gonna, come way down and flank behind him, because every time he's not on a road hex, he's got to roll a die, and on a 5 or 6, he bogs down. So he could bog down, right off the bat, or he might be able to move a few hexes. Oh, he's getting lucky. Oh. Right. Uh-oh. What's the American going to do? Oh, he's bogged down. He's rolled a 6. But, we'll see. Like I said, I'm hoping to play this tonight. If you guys can come back for that or check it out later, that's great. If not, I don't, like I said, I've got a massive headache going on right now, so I'm going to cut this video short. I'm going to go get in the shower for a little bit, see if the nice steam will help things out. And hopefully we'll see you guys later. So thanks for modeling for Advantage. I saw him earlier on Itarian Hobbyist. Wonderful channel. Viper Dave and Jillian, and thank everyone for coming out. And we'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, guys.